What's up guys, it's Ryantium here, and today we are back once again in Stellaris Console Edition taking a look at everything warfare. So, warfare. Warfare is one of the most important things in Stellaris Console Edition and in pretty much any strategy game that has war involved. War is how you can somewhat expand. War is how you can express your dominance over specific empires in space, as well as everything else that comes along with war. Perhaps you just don't like an empire and you just want to smite them from the galaxy. You know, that's completely fine. We all have our reasons. And the reasons is actually what we're going to start off with today. So first, we're going to break down each Casus Belli, or otherwise known as reason to go to war. Now this information I'm pulling strictly and directly from the Stellaris console side on the Paradox Wiki. I'll link that in the description for you, just in case you want to read it yourself. And I highly recommend that you take a little bit of time to familiarize yourself with a bunch more of the more nuanced mechanics of Stellaris, and it's all inside of the Stellaris console wiki. Just make sure that you're on the console side and not the PC side if you're playing on Xbox and PS4. So, first let's go over the Casus Belli of claims and conquering. So claims is something that you can do like this. If we go ahead and take a look at our claims window right here, if I wanted to, as the Model 16 Eradicator, say I wanted to place a claim on all of these systems right here. I could then click A on this system, and it would cost me 80 influence. The reason I can't put in any claims on anything is because we are a determined exterminator, therefore we don't need to put any claims, because we just go to war to kill them, we just go to war to exterminate them. But the more claims you get, the more expensive it gets. And in an offensive war, it gets very expensive to then claim mid-war. It's best to spec into a lot of the research that allows you to reduce the cost of claims, as well as doing it before you decide to go to war. Because systems with planets that are colonized in it are more expensive than non-colonized systems. So it's important to keep that in mind. And with the claim and conquer Casus Belli, what that means is if you go to war and say you claim 5 systems, you capture those 5 systems, you can settle a status quo, which means it's the white peace. You can settle the status quo and you will gain access to those 5 systems. If those 5 systems had planets in them because you claimed them because you wanted the planets, you get the planets and the systems. But only that stuff. So for instance, in one of the last videos that I did, I talked about how if you claim a whole bunch of stuff, then you go to war and you destroy stuff that you have not claimed, you do not receive that unless you make an in-war claim on the things that you destroy. So for instance, you've claimed your original 5 systems, you go to war, you wipe out those 5 systems, and then you decide to keep pushing through to their territory, killing their fleets, killing everything like that, destroying their space stations, and invading their planets. Anything that you have not claimed in a conquer war will not be rewarded to you when you settle status quo, or you inevitably win the war. It's very important to remember that. In a conquer situation, it's only what you claim is what you get. Then we have one that I'm not sure a whole lot of people actually understand, and if you do, it's great, but if not, this is to kind of open your eyes to the idea of subjugation. Now, a subjugation war is to force someone to become a vassal or a tributary of your empire. Now, what that means is a vassal is an empire that is under your kind of supervision, under your guidance and everything like that, and they are basically underneath of you. And if you go to war, they go to war with you. If they have war declared on you, or if they have war declared on them, you go to war with them. It's kind of, you know, you're looking out for each other. But a tributary, in my opinion, is the best form of subjugation, because then they pay you 25% of their minerals and 25% of their energy output every single month. And if you get a big empire, that can be the difference between making 500 energy a month and 800 energy a month, which could be a huge boost, especially to a late game empire. So how exactly are you supposed to do that? Well, I'm not sure if it'll show it to us here as a machine empire, but if we come down to here, yeah, okay, so right here, it does actually show it to you. So the demand vassalization and the demand tribute modifier, all of that stuff is a little bit out of whack because, well, I'm a machine empire. I can't have vassals or tributes as a determined exterminator, but it's the same thing. If you have the option to demand vassalization and demand tribute, and there's a red X next to it, that means you will unlock the subjugation Casus Belli. And what that means is when they finally refuse the vassalization request or the tributization request, you can then go to war to force them to accept a vassalization or a tributary request. Meaning, if you win the war, you claim every system, you knock out all of their fleets, every single system has been destroyed, space stations are yours, planets have been invaded, every single thing, you require no claims on any of their planets or their systems, and they automatically become either your vassal or your tributary. And that could be a really powerful thing for fleets and empires that are massively powerful, that just want to kind of consolidate their power to really show everyone that I am your overlord and you will listen to me. So to reiterate, a subjugation war for either vassalization or a tributary, you do not need any claims on an empire's land or space. Once you go to war, you have to claim every single system, or at least until the war goal on the left-hand side of the war screen has been filled up. If it says that there's a green check mark next to it that they'll accept, defeat, then that's great. But the best thing to do is to go until all of the planets are yours and all of the systems are yours. Now, it'll be claimed, technically, it'll be occupied, but it won't actually be yours. So any planets that you invade, you won't have to micromanage. Any systems that you have, you don't have to micromanage any of the stations or anything like that. It's simply just going in there, attacking them, wiping out all of their defenses, and then when they finally submit and surrender, that is the victory for you, and they become your vassal or your tributary. It can be a great way to consolidate power. So next we have one that's just silly. It's the animosity and humiliation rivalry Casus Belli. And what that means is when you are a rival to another empire, you have the option to go to war to humiliate them. And what humiliation does is the loser loses all of its influence and gains a negative 33% monthly influence gain and a minus 10% happiness for the 10-year truce. The winner gains 100 influence, so it's really not that good. If you're going to do it to humiliate a super tiny empire or something like that, then that's fine if you need a quick 100 influence, but it's just not really one that you should really use. But it is great if you go to war with somebody and their war goal against you is to humiliate you. Because then if you go to war to conquer or subjugate them, if you decide to surrender, all you're going to do is lose your influence and get the negative 10% happiness and the negative 33% influence production. They're not going to claim anything like that. So it's important to keep an eye on what your enemy's war goal is too, because if you go to war to exterminate someone and their only war goal is to humiliate you, they cannot take any of your systems, but you can take all of theirs. Now that would never happen because it would be the end threat, but you know what I'm saying. Then we have one that makes pacifism an actual strategy, the liberation and the impose ideology Casus Belli. Now what this means is it allows you to basically impose your ideology, making sure that your ethics are pushed on to another empire. If you're a pacifistic materialist or, a pacifistic xenophobe, you can go to war with your neighbor. It does have to be your neighbor. And the loser is forced to shift their ethics towards those of the winner and will leave a federation if it's a part of one. So you've got a gigantic federation in the galaxy of things that you do not agree with. Just knock them out by taking out one of their weaker parts of the federation. They then lose a member of their federation, they lose the ability to build more Federation ships, and it weakens the Federation altogether. Or you have a lovely xenophobic, militaristic empire next to you, and you're a pacifistic or xenophobe, something like that, and you want to go to war to impose your ideology on them. You can go to war, impose your ideology on them, and the empire that comes out on top changes the empire on the bottom to your ethics. It's a really great way to kind of, quote-unquote, unify the galaxy under one ideology, the correct ideology, your ideology. Then there's one that I'm not really familiar with because I've never had the unfortunate problem of being a subject to another empire. But this one is the independence war goal in the Casus Belli against your overlords. This is something if you are a vassal of a fallen empire, if you are a vassal of a much stronger empire and you eventually outclass them and outpace them and you want to go to war to kind of break out, that is what you can do. So then we come to one that's kind of interesting, and it's perfect for the pirate people of Stellaris. That is the despoliation and the plunder Casus Belli. Now what this does is it's only available to you if you have the Barbaric Despoiler civic included in your Empire's creation. What I mean by that is there's a specific civic called Barbaric Despoilers, which allows you to have this Casus Belli on all non-Gestalt consciousness empires. And I actually think you might be able to do it on Gestalt consciousness empires, but what it does is you're basically looting the shit out of an enemy empire. And here on the wiki, there's a description that I'll read. The loser loses 500 energy and 500 minerals for every 3 planets they own, and it's rounded up and capped at 60. Meaning, for a maximum of 10,000 minerals and energy will be gained to the winner of the Despoilation and Plunder Casus Belli. Now, if the person that you're plundering doesn't have that much, they actually have a reduced 20% generation to energy and minerals for 10 years. That is a huge blow to somebody. 20% negative towards your energy and your minerals? It wasn't good enough to just take your money. You had to take the minerals, and then you even get a negative on top of that. So it can be very great to kind of cripple an empire early on, or even a big empire, because 20% is a big hit. Not to mention having the max amount of 10,000 being able to be taken every time you go to war. That's a nice chunk of change, especially if you're running low on resources. Then we come to the total war ones that I have in my mind, and that is Purification, which is cleansing, Hunger, absorption, and Sublimation, which is assimilation. Now what all of these mean is Purification is when you are either a fanatic purifier or a determined exterminator. Now what that means is when you go to war, you are going to wipe off the galaxy of Xenos, of anybody else but yourself. You go to war to expand and wipe out life. All of these empires that have them get incredible bonuses to be the most aggressive that they can be. And this war type allows you to, when you blow up a station or raid a planet, it immediately goes into your roster of systems that you own and planets that you can directly control. Meaning the pops on there, so long as they're being purged, will generate resources, most of the time energy or food, yeah, you can get massive amounts of resources, massive amounts of systems that you don't need to claim, and it's very, very easy to just wipe an empire off the galaxy's map, especially if you're very overpowered. Now when it comes to hunger, this is a specific one for a devouring swarm hive mind. Now the hive mind is the same thing. It is for the absorption Casus Belli. And what that means is you are absorbing everything on these planets, meaning you're eating the pops and you are expanding to their worlds. And the worlds that you take over become the worlds for you to live on. Your space stations, or the space stations that they have and own, they now become yours. The planets that they had and owned now become yours. It's once again, another very aggressive way to play, and it is a total war because there's no need to claim anything. Then you have ones like Assimilation. Assimilation is as a driven assimilator, and the driven assimilators is basically with one goal in mind, and that is to turn every single organic pop on a planet that you raid into a cyborg. And this is another one where if you destroy a station or raid a planet, it immediately falls into your own systems and your own planets for you to micromanage. And the pops that are on there are now going to be assimilated into cyborgs. So all three of those are kind of together in the total war situation. But then we have a couple of other ones, and one of them is containment. Now containment or end threat Casus Belli is when you're going up against a determined exterminator, driven assimilator, fanatical purifier, or a hive mind of devouring swarm. Basically what that means is any genocidal or awakened empire, you can end the threat. Meaning if you win and you wipe them off the face of the galaxy, you win, and that's great. And that's a very important one, especially if your neighbor is a determined exterminator or a driven assimilator or someone like that, and you don't want to be a part of their empire. That's a really great one to use, because getting them out as soon as possible makes it a lot easier for you to grow. So that is definitely one to look at when you have the nasty people next door. Then, last but not least, we do indeed have a few other ones, but they're only available to the fallen empires. And we're not going to go over them because it's only available to the fallen empires. But you can see on screen that there's a couple there for you to look at. And then there's one right here that I've actually never seen before, and it's Galatron Access Denied. I have no idea what that means. So if someone could please tell me what the hell that means, that would be wonderful, because in my hundreds of hours of playing Stellaris, I've never seen that before. And then last but not least, we have the War in Heaven and the Machine Uprising, both of which are very Fallen Empire related and Rebellions with AI related. So the War in Heaven, I'm not as familiar with, but you'll know when it happens. It's two fallen empires that have awakened and decided to just start fighting each other. It's quite terrifying. And then Machine Uprising is exactly what it sounds like. The machines uprise against the organic masters and decide to destroy you from the inside out. They gain all of your fleet power, practically, and they gain key systems that allow them to continue to expand as an empire on their own, and they can really cause some damage. It's very, very unfortunate, so treat your damn robot pops with rights. Give them citizen rights. Make them feel happy. So I hope that makes, the Casus Belli situation and the going to war a little bit easier to understand. But here at the end of today's video, I did want to touch on something that, has been touched on before in other videos, but wanted to make sure that it was included in this warfare video, and that is the weapon types of the different ships. Now, I am not a master at the different weapon types on all the ships. I have no idea, nor do I want to know, how to min-max my ships to do the most damage to a specific target. I will, however, say that there are a few key things to know when it comes to speccing out your ships. When it comes to the regular weapons, we're going to take a look at this destroyer right here. Kinetic weapons do damage against hull and shield. Your plasma weapons do stuff against armor and hull. And your flak doesn't really do anything. That's just point defense to take care of everything else that's coming at you as far as strike craft and everything like that. Your lasers, let's go ahead and take a look right here. Your lasers, they do damage to armor, not shields. Your null void beams do nothing to armor and damage, but do everything to shields. Your disruptors do everything to shield and armor. And then, like I said, your kinetic weapons do shield and not armor. So basically, think of it like this. When you are using kinetic weapons, you're peppering the shields. When you're using your laser weapons, you're destroying and ablating the armor and the hull. It's very important to remember that, especially when you go up against specific targets, and always remember to try and keep at least one of each weapon on your ship, or at least in my opinion. I like to always run with lasers and kinetic weapons in the beginning, and then spec into plasma with kinetic weapons as well. So I know this has been a crazy long video about warfare and everything like that, but I hope it's helped you to understand exactly what is going on with the whole warfare system, how to make it work for you, and how to get rid of those filthy freaking Xenos out there in space. So if you have any more questions, do please let me know down there in the comment section. And if you're looking for any more Stellaris content, you can always grab a sub here, drop a like if you will. And if you're looking for any other Stellaris content, you can always check the description. There are lots of channels down there that I've linked in the description for you to check out that do content around Stellaris on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So guys, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.